Good evening. Tonight, I'm going to be reading some true creepy experiences. So let's get this started. When I was 14, I used to walk down to the local elementary school late at night during the summer to sit on the swings and get some fresh air. I'd usually be there around 2 or 3 in the morning. One night, I kept hearing a strange noise coming from the middle of the playground field, so I went to investigate. It was pitch black, and I had no light source except the lights from the school 150 yards or so behind me. When I got to the edge of the field, I saw what looked like a person sitting in the grass, so I pulled out my shitty flip phone to try to provide some extra light, which didn't help at all. But it appeared that the person was sitting on the grass, rolling around. So I yelled, "Is someone there? Are you okay?" They didn't answer, so I turned on my phone's camera and used the flash to snap a picture. The light from the flash provided me a second to see a woman sitting in the grass, holding her feet and rolling around, making almost no noise. I didn't know what to say or do, so I turned around and ran all the way back home. I still have no idea who she was or what the fuck she was doing. One night, I was watching a movie in the living room of my grandma's gigantic house. She was sleeping upstairs and I was the only one there besides her, and right after the movie ended, I decided to go upstairs. When I did, I heard loud fast footsteps near the window closer to the TV. It was around 2 a.m. The window was closed properly, so no one should be there. The dog outside barked as well. I was sure someone was there, but no one knocked. I went to get a big fucking knife and I opened the door. I did this really fast. No one was out there. The dog was confused and didn't know where to look, but he was looking for something, so I wasn't crazy. There was no fucking way that somebody would be out there so fast, because nobody can enter or leave the property unless they had the remote controller or a key for the gate. But even that would take too long. So I just went inside, really scared, and brought the dog in as well. I slept with him that night in the living room with the lights on, but to date, I have no clue what that was. When I was about 14, my friend and I went bow hunting on his dad's property. Mainly we just walked around the woods all day messing around. As it started to get dark, he called his dad to pick us up so he would drive us to his mum's house. His dad asked us to wait at a certain spot right by the road at the edge of the property. It quickly got very dark, and for some reason, I don't even remember why, we waited, sitting down facing each other about 50 feet from the road in a spot that was pretty dense with trees. There was absolutely nothing around but the road and the trees for at least a mile. We were talking about whatever 14-year-olds talk about, when suddenly, I saw light hitting my face. It came from above. I looked up, but couldn't see what exactly or how high it was. It was very focused, white, and only seemed to hit my face and nothing around me. My friend also saw it, and both of us were very panicked and freaked out. The light hadn't come on and then moved to my face. It was on me from the moment it came on. It shone for maybe 3 to 5 seconds and then went back off. There didn't seem to be anything in the trees or above them, although it was damn dark. But we were both convinced it came from above the trees. We heard nothing, even though the night was super quiet, and we both said nothing the moment it appeared. We booked it to the road and waited for his dad. The thing is though, Gary Michael Hilton, so-called the National Forest serial killer, was known to be roaming this very national park between 2007 and 2008. When I was 8, I went to the pool in the beginning of summer with my sisters and sat down on the pool bench. A guy about 11 years old laid down next to me and said, "You're beautiful. Will you go out with me?" My sisters thought it was funny and kind of let it go, but he creeped me out. Every time I wanted to go to the pool, he was there too, telling me how pretty I was and asking me to go out with him, introducing me to his disabled grandmother, the one who brought him to the pool. So this girl came up to me and asked me if Chris was bothering me. I said that I didn't really care, and she rolled her eyes and joked about how he used to ask her out too, and that she was glad he'd found someone else to pine over. The girl, Elizabeth, started hanging out with me when I went to the pool, which was almost every day since I was allowed to go by myself. She explained that she and Chris were good friends from a different neighbourhood, but came to our pool because it was bigger and had more room for his grandmother to work on a physical therapy for her legs. We became great friends and laughed about how Chris was always following us around and asking me out. But one day, I noticed that he followed me all the way back to my house and tried to hide behind a mailbox when I saw him. That creeped me out. I began to notice that he was getting more and more aggressive and annoyed with me for refusing to date him. He started asking me to go on walks with him through the park and brought his grandmother, so I didn't feel like I could say no. He would take me into the woods or behind the jungle gym, out of sight from his grandmother, and make creepy comments about my body and touch my cheek, telling me how pretty I was. He continued to follow me home, even when I took shortcuts through the woods or the long way that led into circles. His presence began to make me nervous, because I wasn't sure what would happen if I continued to turn him down. Finally, during the last week the pool was open, I went to the bathroom. The bathrooms are a bit off to the side of the pool and closed off with a large heavy metal door so kids don't sneak in and vandalise it at night. The second I entered, the door shut behind me and the lights turned off. Then I heard Chris say, "I'm not letting you out until you agree to go out with me," and he locked the door. The bathroom was cold and pitch black. I was terrified of the dark at the time. The tiles were disgusting, slimy, that wet feeling that tile gets when it's a bit wet with bits of dirt and sand on it, which is why I never liked going in there in the first place. It also smelled like chlorine and a typical subpar public restroom. Stuff of nightmares for an 8-year-old, let me tell ya. I started banging on the door and screaming for help, but nobody could hear me because of the really heavy door and the location. But then some angry soccer mum started screaming at me to stop pranking her and how much trouble I was in. It turns out, she'd been locked in too and was mad that while she was peeing, the lights turned off. She called for help and I was let out of the bathroom. Being 8, I didn't think about it much, but now I realise how creepy the whole situation was. Now to finish off, I'm going to read one of my favourite stories. So here goes. I woke up one morning and got ready for school like I usually did. My bus picked me up around 7 AM, right when the sun was starting to come up a little, but there were still spots of darkness deep in the woods. I was the only kid who was picked up at my bus stop, so I would stand at the edge of the woods and wait until the bus came. My mum and dad would have to drop me off about 5 minutes before the bus came and hightail it out of there to make it to work on time by 8 o'clock. It's not that they felt completely comfortable doing this, but they didn't have many options. We lived in a fairly safe area, and the bus always arrived on time. So I'm standing there, cold as shit, waiting on the bus to come, watching the sunrise slowly in the sky. It's still a little dark out, but yet bright enough for me to see what's around me. I saw the lights of the bus in the distance, on time as usual, and it came to a stop right in front of me. My bus driver, Mrs. Teresa, opened the door and said good morning and gestured for me to hop on. I walked to my seat, put my stuff down, but noticed that the bus driver wasn't moving yet. Mrs. Teresa still had the door ajar, and she just sat there, leaning slightly out of her seat, staring into the woods. After a good minute or so, we were off and on our way to school after picking up a few more kids. Arriving at school, Mrs. Teresa escorted us in, which is something she never did, and I remember seeing her slip into the office and talking to one of the secretaries. I went through my regular school day and was picked up by my dad in the car rider line, as normal. When he picked me up though, he started asking me all kinds of questions, like did the bus pickup go okay this morning, and did any cars stop or blow the horn at you as you waited? Strange questions that he's never asked me before. That next morning, my parents didn't take me to the bus stop. Mum dropped me off at school before going into work at a later time. This continued, alternating a drop-off by my mum or dad for the remainder of the school year. At the same time, I noticed they changed my bus stop. Years later, I found out why my bus driver went into the school that day and why my bus stop was relocated. When Mrs. Teresa picked me up that morning, she saw a man standing in the woods behind me where I was, just staring at me. She alerted the school secretary, who alerted the transportation office for the school district, and then the police. The police investigated and found some items wrapped up in a t-shirt back in the woods. A hunting knife, rope, a rag or washcloth, and tape. The police never found who that shit belonged to, but my bus driver, my parents, and the police felt certain that whoever it belonged to had the worst intentions, and probably for me. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like and let me know what you thought in the comments below. Really sorry I've not been able to do the live stream. Just the change in seasons here in Australia and not feeling the best basically. It's basically just all caught up with me, and I needed to postpone the live stream, but I haven't forgotten, and I do want to do it with you guys. I want to make sure that you all have enough notice, and I didn't really plan the last one properly. I mentioned the weekend, but I didn't really mention the time. That was my fault, so I want to give you guys enough notice. So right now, we'll probably I'll post it on Twitter, and I'll also post it as a separate video on YouTube so that anyone who's subscribed will get the update in a quick video to let you know of the live stream. Kind of like a little bit of a promo or an ad, I suppose. I found it's probably the best way to communicate with you guys, so that and Twitter and Facebook. So if you have a Twitter and you want to follow me, it's at thisismrreality, and you can find the links in the description below. Alright, well that's enough of my droning, so I hope you all have a good one, and I'll see you all in the next one.